Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So I made a brand new sourdough starter this week and I wanted to share the process with you because it is zero discard sourdough starter method. Now the reason I made a new sourdough starter is because I wanted a 100% ancient wheat sourdough starter. So since we started a more biblical diet, we have really kind of pressed into the ancient grains such as einkorn, kamut, and spelt. And so I wanted to make a sourdough starter with only ancient grains. So those three specific flours is what that I will be feeding this starter. So as I said, it is a zero discard. We're starting out with a tiny amount of flour and water and building on it every day. Now, I was able to put my starter in the refrigerator on the morning of the 5th day. It took off. It did really good. It was really active, smelled so good. And so I kind of fed it up the day before and decided I would use that amount to make pancakes this weekend. And then I'm going to start making some ancient wheat sourdough loaves of bread. I'm going to be leaning more on sandwich breads because that's just what we eat the most. We love the artisan loaves. They're beautiful, and it's not that they don't taste good, but we eat a lot of sandwiches. And for us, we like a soft, slightly sweet sandwich bread. So going forward on my sourdough ancient wheat loaves, they will most likely be sandwich loaves, but you can probably convert them, leave the sweetener out, and just make an artisan loaf with them as well. All right, well, I'm going to take you through the process. I really only had to feed it and take care of it for 4.5 days. I forgot to get footage on that 4th day, and I want to tell you really quick. I fed it as normal, and then probably a little before dinner time, I gave it 8 more tablespoons of flour and stirred it up. No more water because it was a little thin for me. I like a bit thicker of a starter, and so I stirred that in. And when I got up this morning, it was just so active and it was so happy. And I was like, okay, going in the fridge, and I'll just keep building on it. I will get my cup out on this weekend, make some pancakes, and then I will refeed that, and I'll probably make some biscuits. And then the next time I feed it, I'm going to go for making a loaf of bread. So, I mean, I could probably go ahead and try to make a loaf of bread with it after this weekend, after I feed it. But my husband's going to be off for a week, and I'm just going to let it sit in the fridge until I'm ready to really take the time to work on those loaves of bread the week after. So, all right, well, let's jump into this. We're going to go through each specific day and let you see what this new method that I'm using, and I hope that you will enjoy it. No discard. I'm so excited to share this with you guys. All right, let's jump into the video. So the first day I added 2 tablespoons of freshly milled spelt flour and 2 tablespoons of water. I mixed it very well, and then I put one of these fermenting caps on top because it's just easier than trying to keep some other kind of lid on, but you can just put like a coffee filter or something on. And I just put it beside the wood stove, and then I checked on it in 24 hours. So on the second day, I had to add at least what I had put in there before. So there was 2 tablespoons of flour the first day. I'm adding 2 tablespoons of flour today and 2 tablespoons of water. I'm going to mix it well, do the same thing, put the lid on, put it by the wood stove, and then I'll check on it in the morning. So this is day 2. All right, guys, it's early. It's still dark outside. Still have crazy hair, but I'm getting ready to feed this starter. It's day 3. Yesterday evening, it was really bubbly and active already, so I'm pretty excited about this. But I wanted to tell you real quick before I feed this. This starter now has in total 4 tablespoons of flour. So I need to feed it at least that amount to keep the activity going. If I only feed it the 2 tablespoons again, it's not enough food for this to really feed on and build up that good bacteria. So today I will actually be feeding it 4 tablespoons of flour and 4 tablespoons of water. Now I also want to make a note that I'm using flour from the freezer to make this, and it's still activating and doing fine. I had a little extra spelt flour last week. It's less than a week ago that I put in the freezer, and I'm using that up for the starter. So I'm going to feed this 4 tablespoons of flour, 4 tablespoons of water. This starter is going to be ready by the weekend. Today is Tuesday. I'm going to use the starter for pancakes so that I can build it up and hopefully start making spelt sourdough bread by next week, which is pretty exciting. I forgot to hit record, I'm sorry, but I did add 4 tablespoons of flour, 4 tablespoons of water, and just put it back by the wood stove. This is day 3. Got a lot of hooch, so it's very hungry. Now, today is going to be different because this now has a total of 8 tablespoons of flour. So I'm going to add 8 tablespoons of flour to it. But I'm going to decrease the water just a bit to 6 tablespoons to make it a little bit thicker. Now, if this gets as active today as it did yesterday, I may just go ahead and feed it the full amount that I want and put it in the refrigerator because it got so active yesterday. So I'm just going to stir the hooch in. You can pour it off if you want, but I usually just stir it in, and I'm going to pour this in my crock. You can see it gets thinner when it gets hungry. So that's why it looks so thin. So I'm going to do 8 tablespoons. This is a 2 tablespoon measure. This flour was actually just milled a few minutes ago. I'm going to do 8 tablespoons of flour. So there's 2, 4, 6, and 8. And instead of the 8 tablespoons of water, I'm going to do 6 and make it a little bit thicker. 2, 4, and 6. Now I'm just going to stir this in. When you're stirring your starter, I've said this before, but just make sure you stir it vigorously. That adds air, and air is an important component to starting a sourdough starter and maintaining one as well. Okay, so I'm just going to put my lid on this and leave it sit out. I'm going to check it in a few hours, and if it's as active as it was yesterday, I'll probably just go ahead and feed it a cup of flour and some water, let it get active, and put it in the fridge. And what I will do is use a cup of this for some pancakes this weekend, and then maybe make some whole grain sourdough biscuits. Just kind of build the starter up before I actually try to make a loaf of sandwich bread. So this is day 4. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that this video was helpful for you, whether you want to make a new sourdough starter or you're like us and you're kind of digging into this ancient wheat thing and maybe you want a separate starter for those loaves of bread. I want to tell you just briefly why ancient grains, because I didn't talk about it at the beginning of the video. Ancient wheat is a little different in structure than modern day wheat. Ancient wheat, we're actually growing spelt this year. We've got our spelt plot out. I'll be showing that to you soon. But ancient wheat is not short. It's the long, tall, beautiful wheat, and you don't get as many kernels per head. But what you gain in health and nutrition from an ancient wheat is well worth it. Usually the gluten is not as strong, the protein is a bit lower, and it takes a little more finesse to build structure on those loaves of bread. It's still worth it because they are quite easier to digest than modern wheat for some people. I don't have a problem digesting freshly milled modern wheat, but because we are on this journey into biblical eating, I thought that it was important to really dig into these ancient wheat varieties and make our breads out of those. So if that's something you're interested in, then you may want to try this starter with your ancient wheat, and keep your other starter if you want for your modern wheat breads. But it's just something that was interesting to me. And also I wanted a starter method that was no discard, because that is my number one kickback and question about my sourdough starter video is why discard? And I understand. And believe me, when you are using ancient wheat, you do not want to discard. Ancient wheat is quite a bit more expensive than modern wheat, and you don't want to waste any of that at all. Not that you want to waste the modern wheat, but it really hits hard when it's this more expensive type of wheat. So, all right, if you found it helpful, please give this video a thumbs up. If you enjoy videos on cooking from scratch, gardening, food preservation, homesteading, and biblical eating, please consider hitting that subscribe button down below. I make 2 new videos every single week. Check out our website, therosehomestead.com, for a ton of printable recipes, lots of sourdough stuff over there, and we'd like to have you there. All right, guys, well, we will see you on the next video.